Welcome, everybody. This is John Paul, Dr. Speed Selling. This is the Raging Verbalist number 167. For those of you who are keeping track, keeping count, keeping on the line. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. If you're a long-time viewer, glad you're back. You can catch us on YouTube every Friday and also on Facebook in the Facebook group Position to Win Book. And you can also add and toss in questions and everything. Talk about whatever hits my mind and hits my fancy or is out there. Kind of steer a little bit away from politics and some of that stuff, but talk about a lot of other things. You have any topics you want to get my opinion on, which you will if you toss it in there, but be kind, be gentle, because we have, of course, the ever lovely Sandra. Sandra, welcome to Raging Verbalist.
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing well. I know that you're struggling with some internet fun today, but we're gonna pull it through. So, by the way, if it looks real jittery, it's because I'm practicing my mime. So it's not really, we'll just use that as the excuse, right?
That's right.
So, okay, all right. Well, all right. So, what is our topic for today, Sandra? What are we gonna hit hard?
All right, we were talking about all of these tech layoffs. So are you surprised at the layoffs that are going on in high tech?
No, I'm not. During the pandemic, I hope that we don't get banned by saying maybe the scourge, the whatever we want to call it. Anyway, during that period of time, high tech was hot tech, and what they did was they said, "Man, we are just booming along." Or zooming along, and what they did was they hired like crazy, and they hired lots and lots and lots of people. And again, this is an interesting corporate culture when you're a fat, dumb, and happy flush company, because you add a lot of people. So watching how many hires that they were doing and how much they were putting in place, my question was always, what are they going to do with all these people? And if you're going to hire somebody, you kind of have to know why they're there, what they're going to do, and how they're going to add value to the company, how they're going to add value to what they're doing, how they're going to make this work. So I'm not really surprised that now that we have shifted into yet a different, segment, era, whatever we want to call it, time frame, that somebody is, wakes up and says, wait a second, we got a ton of people, and what are these people doing?
And what's behind the shift in this protected marketplace?
I think, it's more of a, since the whole world isn't sitting at home and not everybody is doing all of these things, that what has happened is that this was protected, because when you're fat, dumb, and happy and ever expanding money and all of that, and everybody's going to, go out there and we're going to see growth to infinity and beyond, that this just keeps kind of rolling along. And what happens to any protected market is that you think that you're super stable and a super great position. And then, there's this kind of crack in the cosmic egg. And what does the crack in the cosmic egg tell us? Well, it tells us that, things aren't as easy as it seemed, and the money doesn't show up the way it does. The fact that Alphabet, why they changed it from Google to Alphabet? I guess they thought that way it was more universal, they could do other things. But let's face it, the ad revenue is where the money's at. But quarter after quarter after quarter, and I don't know how many quarters in a row, somebody out there could probably know exactly, but several quarters in a row, they've missed their targets. And eventually somebody wakes up and says, wait a second, now this is not good. We can't keep missing targets, because money isn't, and also money isn't as cheap either, because when money was cheap, Elon Musk went out and raised $5 billion in an afternoon on Tesla stock. That was through the roof, and I knew people who bought some of that. Yeah, well, that was buying what turned out to be an anchor going into the water. So what happened is, I think there's a little sobriety hit, and a reality that we weren't going to grow to the sky in the digital domains.
So is this truly new, or has this happened before?
So whenever I talk to people about high tech, and I get a lot of really insipid, pissy ass, want to slap these bitches And I say that, and when I say bitches, I am not gender specific. There are bitches of all colors, stripes, orientations. They're all, but over the years, because I've been in high tech now for 40 plus years, I have seen high tech. High tech just is this rolling thunder that everybody thinks that whatever you are today, that this is a protected, we're doing it differently. We've repealed the laws of supply and demand. Business is going to go on forever. And the entire high tech history, if they ever have the big giant book of high tech, and I mean, obviously it would be a big giant digital book. But I can just imagine that the monks will write this in the decades and centuries in the future, and it'll be some monster thick book of all the companies that came, grew, went, came, failed, went, and you just go through this process over and over again. So this is not the first time it's happened. All you have to do is go and look at certain waves and certain trends. In some ways, it's just like the ocean. The waves come and they crash and then they're gone. And then the next wave comes and it crashes. And then sometimes the next big wave is even bigger than the last wave. And everybody's, it keeps happening. It keeps happening over and over and over again. And I have seen this many times. There are famous cases. And for those of you who think that, well, geez, John, do you really know about the current tech? I stay on top of tech. I read a lot about tech. I experience tech. I use tech. I see what's going on in tech. And all I can tell you is that, well, here, you may want to write this down. Shit happens every day and that destroys some tech that's out there. Something that you thought was going to be like never going to really take place happens, takes place, and then it's over. Example is that you're looking at somebody right now who owned an internet phone back before there wasn't everybody talking about voice over IP. And literally you could walk into a coffee shop. I did this, get onto a Wi-Fi. Wow, was that scary in those times. And you could have somewhat of a muffled verbal conversation. That was a long time ago. Today, we have WhatsApp, and I'm talking to people in Colombia and the Philippines and Spain, and I mean, done. The technology has gone to that point. But what about all of those earlier companies, all those people who were going to be there? By the way, I have internet appliances sitting in a storage place that I should, people say, John, you just got to throw stuff out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it gets so old that people will buy it for museum things. Like having, a Furby or something. But yeah, this has happened before. It's going to continue to happen. And the question that you should always ask is, no matter how solid one of these companies, no matter how solid one of these things looks, is to ask yourself, will they be in business in 5 or 10 or 15 years? And what will we be doing? Because, by the way, if you could actually predict what was going to happen, well, then, don't say it on the internet, whispered in our ears, because then maybe we could actually all make a lot of money. So, yeah, it's happened before. It's going to happen again, and it's going to continue to happen.
Right. So with that, have we seen the end of the layoffs?
Well, I don't think we've seen the end of the layoffs. In fact, we have seen the highly publicized layoffs, but I think we're going to continue to see layoffs because, again, you put a lot of fat on. Sometimes you get to the spring, you got to get thin, you got to get lean, you got to get to those things, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Is the metaverse going to really be something? Are NFTs really going to be something? Is ChatGPT going to be the next $1 trillion company? Well, no one knows these things, but what I can tell you is that the layoffs will continue because there are companies who have misallocated their resources, and that's what it's all about. And it's all about that because, of course, the market is always right. Now, I don't believe in, and this is where maybe I veer off a little bit into politics, since I am a serious libertarian. I believe that we need to have market solve these problems. The last thing I want to do is have anybody with any government official trying to pick winners and losers. In fact, I believe that some of the misplaced, misguided thinking that's going on today, well, people are going to pick winners and losers. Hell, if you could pick winners and losers, then go and work in that sector and show us that. I mean, the world is littered with people who make that mistake. Now, I'm going to help you not make that mistake, because what you should really do is go pick up my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes, people make mistakes that hamper them for the rest of that business's existence. It just normally takes people 3 to 5 years before they go through and piss away all the money they have, all the money their relatives have, all the money that they can scrape together and find, and they go broke. Now, whether it's 25%, 50%, 80%, 90%, and there's a lot of zombie businesses out there that you could say, well, they didn't go out of business, but they aren't really in business. So most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever physical books are sold. You can also go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. You can ask me to sign it. I will, and send it a nice inscription to you. Also, you can get it digitally. You can get it with Kindle, Nook, and Apple iBooks. And then, there's this other book, Remote Work for a Better World. We were on top of that remote work thing before everybody else. Why? Because I've been around remote work. It's hard for people to understand that this virtualization, will people go back to the office? Will everybody end up going back to the office? And the answer is a really short one: no. And the reason why it's a no is that the level of productivity, you have to hire the best people you can find, not based upon that we're all clumped and huddled together like a bunch of yaks on the Siberian plain. No, you have to find people who are skilled and capable and can do the work that you need to be done, because work has changed dramatically from where it used to be to what it is today. So go check it out. On one side, most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. Check that out. The other one is Remote Work for a Better World, exclusively on the Kindle, Amazon Kindle. All right. What is our next hot question?
All right. So have you seen the video of the Google employee that thought she was in an untouchable job?
So for some reason, people who have this streak to show their entire life, hey, this is me buying a bag of chips at the gas station. This is me, flossing my teeth. This is me. Well, this woman makes this the day in her life at Google, and she was in Southern California. And I watched the original video, and essentially it shows her doing virtually no work. Now, a person like myself who gets up early and works, start early and late, work hard, all that, I was a little aghast. Now I'm not an Alphabet or Google shareholder, so I wasn't that pissed. I mean, hey, if you want to pay her to go sit around and get a smoothie and a latte and a massage and get into the, to the quiet room and, and then, post some videos, but none of that had to do with her job and adding value to that. So she thought she was pretty untouchable, but now somebody has put together a mashup of that original video showing her really being, a pampered prima donna, to now being a crying, whiny, it's what we're saying, crying, whiny bitches. She got herself laid off, said, oh, they didn't even think about me. They didn't even think about all this. Who knows what she was being paid, but, obviously from the amount of output she was doing in that original video, didn't seem like she was under a lot of stress to do a lot of work. So yes, I have seen that video. I would recommend everybody watch that video for this. This should be your wake-up call. If you're in a very great position and things are going very smoothly, don't sit there and say, time to coast, time to not work very hard. No, this should be, how do I actually keep advancing and keep moving forward? Sad that anybody loses their job, but the reality of the world, the way this thing is set up and how it all comes together is that you either produce or you get out, you get tossed out, you get reduced, you get pushed away, because we don't have enough resources. I guess Alphabet had enough to keep her going for a while. But eventually somebody wakes up and says, hey, there's something wrong here. We've got to take care of this problem.
And have you ever experienced this kind of shock?
So I moved to California and I was selling high tech and I was having a commission issue. And if you've ever been in sales, having a commission issue is like normal bullshit you got to go through. And I'm driving on I-5, Santa Ana Freeway, and I'm driving there with my boss. I'm in my new car, and this is the days of wearing suits and ties. And we're driving on the I-5. We're heading north, and I'm just haranguing Tommy, and I'm just haranguing him about this commission. What a travesty! This is not right, because it was based upon a commission split. And you could say, John, were you trying to get more than your fair share? Well, I was trying to get it all. So I don't know what the fair share part would be. I was trying to get it all. Anyway, we're driving, and this is in Irvine, California. And he says, John, pull over to the side of the road. Now it's a 5-lane freeway. So, it's a little dicey to pull off to the side of the road, but we do. And as we're doing this, and I'm just in this, frothing at the mouth, Tommy looks at me and goes, I just want to give you a perspective. I want to just lay it out for you. And he said, we're sitting here in your new car. It is air conditioned. You're wearing a beautiful suit and tie. I'm wearing a beautiful suit and tie. And we're doing this, and we are working, put quotes around that, so you can have this job that you have now, or you could have a real job. And he points out the window, and here are people who are picking strawberries, and they're sitting there working there with straw hats, toiling in the soil, and they're picking strawberries. He goes, that's a real job. The job you have is a different kind of gig. Now you can feel put upon, you can feel like it's not fair. Well, that was an eye-opener for me. First off, I never complained to him about commissions again. I always just made my case and fought vociferously for them. More importantly, I always understood one thing. When you're walking anywhere and you see somebody who's doing really tough work, you want to make sure that you don't feel like you're some kind of elitist, but you really understand that, that's a real job versus the job that I had. And that's the lesson in that. So yes, I experienced that. I didn't get laid off, didn't get fired, but it was a cold water splashed in my face to say, hey, look, don't go feeling like you're not getting a good deal out of life.
All right. And is Twitter a special case given your turnaround background?
Well, when Elon Musk paid too much money, and I'm just going to say that up front, I think he paid too much money, but he got himself in a jam. Ego can get us all. Ego can get us pushing the wrong way. But once he did that and he walked into the Twitter headquarters carrying a sink, he basically proclaimed that, things were going to change. Now he started right-sizing and he started firing people. Now, you can't fire everybody, even though you want to. And having done turnarounds, I'll tell you the fast way to do a turnaround is if you can scorch the earth and fire everybody and then have people fight hard to keep their jobs. I mean, I've done that with sales teams. Fired the whole sales team, and then saw who said, wait a second, don't fire me. I'm good. I want to stick. I want to go. Let me sell you on Sting. Couldn't do that. But I was not surprised that he cut that many people. I was a little surprised because it is out of character with our current state of society and our mindset and our pampering bullshit that we do. But they literally had to cut all those people out. And because he's right-sized it, and yes, he lost a lot of advertisers, and yes, there's this whole thing about, he's diving into this politics and that politics. All I can tell you is that Twitter, I believe, will be just fine. And he's got to get his sea legs. He's got to find out what's going to work. He's going to try a lot of things that won't work. But all of that dead wood, and if you're an ex-Twitter person, sorry to call you dead wood, but if you're dead wood, you're either part of the solution or you are the problem, not part of the problem. You are the problem. And he had to do that. So I'm not surprised. I am surprised that he had the level of stones, as we could say, to do it as far as he did it. And I think that actually is a very positive part about what has happened to Twitter.
You think this is a permanent shift or just temporary?
We live in a world where when times are good, we overspend, we overindulge, we overdo, we go too far because, of course, our optimism brain kicks in and says, hey, let's Let's be optimistic. Let's push this along. Let's be on top of it. Let's go for it. I mean, we're just that, and we're always going to have that. I think that this is a permanent shift for some of the exuberance that people had, some of the overarching, everything is going to be growing to the sky for right now. Now, the next crop of high tech that's going to show up, and invariably it will, high tech is out there right now, breeding like rabbits, living like ants at a picnic. I mean, they're out there trying to figure stuff out. And we're all going to be better for it, in my opinion. I mean, we are all better because of these innovations that have happened. I don't care what your leanings or whatever your thinking is. Tech has changed us in a very big way. Couldn't be doing what I'm doing now with doing Raging Verbalist even 15 years ago. This would have been a bitch and a half to do. Still not as easy as I'd like it to be, right? We can always complain about it. But is this going to be a permanent shift? Yeah, I think that you're going to see these companies get a lot leaner. They're going to start thinking about how many course meals they're going to give people for free. They're going to start thinking about some of these other things. And that I think is a permanent shift, not a temporary condition. And if you're in one of those very prestigious companies, understand that you should get up every day. And I don't care how you write this Post-it note, 3x5 card, put it in, your whatever note taking you have on your device, and ask yourself, what value do I bring to the organization? And that's number one. And number two, how do I enhance that value each and every day? And if you do that, then in all likelihood, you'll make it through to the other side. And all of you who are out there whining and moaning about that this should have never happened, welcome to life and reality.
All right. And how does this affect people in sales, marketing, and business?
If you're under a certain size of business, you always want to be that person on edge. You have to be careful if you fall into this kind of slumber in a comfort zone and thinking that it's all going to be perfect and all these other things. Maybe you have that best customer you've ever had. You're having your best year ever. All of that is great. But I can tell you from having done as many turnarounds as I have, is that usually people start coasting long before they really get to the highest level they can get. So the lesson that we can all learn is that no one is irreplaceable. Everyone can be changed out. Now, will it be as good without you? Would it be all these other things? Biggest mistake I ever made, I probably made some others, but this is a pretty big mistake, is that I thought I was irreplaceable in a sales job that I had. And it cost me, with stock options and commissions, on the conservative side, it cost me at least $2.5 million, because I thought they can't live without me. Turns out they could. Now, you can always have this mindset that they can't live without you. What I would do is flip that around and say, how do I become indispensable and build a defensive position? And most importantly, position myself in such a way that I can make it through the ups and downs of the business cycle. The world keeps changing, and more importantly, be ready for an opportunity when it hits you. One of the most important lessons you can ever learn is that opportunities arrive at the most inopportune moment. Things show up and you really don't want to do that now. Maybe you've been beaten down and you're really kind of exhausted and you say, well, I'm not doing that again. What you have to do is clear your mind, drop the emotional baggage, and most importantly, be ready, because opportunity is out there for each and every one of us. The question is when are you going to get off your ass, go make something happen? And most importantly, it doesn't matter what's going on out there. In a sense, it matters more what's going on in here. How you react to things, how you develop your own mental toughness is going to determine overarchingly how successful you will or will not be. I hope that what you are is a person who understands that it's up to you to go make something happen each and every day. And with that, I'm John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and for myself and the lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist, number 167. Go out and have a great week. Become just an amazing center of energy, power, and influence. And always know that you are driving your own bus.